Here, got the Adventure Disc 3 that I've used for touring. We're going to do some replacements here. We're going to replace this 3x9 that we had on here with a 2x10. Got the silver crank here. It's a 3824. Going to be putting on the Deore M50 100, I believe, rear derailleur. Microshift front derailleur, running Rivendell Silver shifter for the front and an Ene Ciclo on the back. Got some sweet looking aluminum drilled brakes there we're going to put on there. Also, we're going to be replacing these stock wheels with the HED Belgium G gravel wheels set up tubeless. So looking forward to getting this done, and we'll see how it all turns out. All right, it's Chris here. I'm back. We're gonna start by breaking this down. Let's see how it goes. Just cut this tape off. See how that. I'm not too concerned about the housing or the tape. I've got new tape. I've got new housing, so whatever gets damaged, that's all right. No worries. It's all gonna get new anyway. This tape's not as gross as I thought it would be. First one down. Maybe should put a new blade on here. It seemed very sharp. All right, looks good. So I already pre-positioned this. I've already taken it off just to test this tool out because I was unsure of how it worked, other than I knew you had to screw this in, but then you've got to turn this inside to push to the inside and it pulls the crank off. Took a little bit more force than I was actually expecting. I was kind of surprised with how much, but again, that was probably because of the small wrench I had been using. Not a big deal, but you know, just slightly surprising, that's all. So we're going to take this, thread it in here eventually. And then we'll take this wrench, screw that towards the inside, the bottom bracket. I'll take the wrench, get it on there, twist. And it's off. Alright, let's see here. Let's get the wire cutters. We're gonna snip all the ends. There's the end for the rear derailleur. Come around here, get the end for the rear brake. I'm gonna replace all these wires anyway, so we're just gonna go snip them all. And front derailleur. And last but not least, front brake. Go ahead and figure out which side for this derailleur note. I got the 5 in here. Bring the 5. That's some bullshit. Whatever. Loosen that up. There we go. Free that. We'll wow, that's and my Park Tool AWS 10 just came apart. That's awesome. Let's see if I can just slide that back in and get these things untightened. Alright, got that done. Come back here, get the rear brake. Got that. Front brake. Okay, let's go ahead and get this. Go ahead and get this rear derailleur, or this front derailleur off actually. What do I got going on over here? Okay, here we go. Really should go get my other Allen key set. I really do not like this one. It's more of an emergency set more than anything. But it's what I have up here right now, so that's what I'm going to use. Okay. Now let's go for the rear derailleur. Bye-bye, Altus. Okay. Derailleur off. Extra caps. Those will just be saved. There's no reason to toss them completely. There we go. Let's get the rest of this cabling off. Okay, we're going to continue here, getting the rest of this cabling off. I am going to keep this. I'm not going to reuse it for this project due to the different brake levers and the position of the friction shifters. I believe the sizing is probably not going to work out, but I do like the braided metal look. It just, I don't know, I like the way things look. Kind of goes with the aesthetic of this bike. Ow, fuck. That didn't feel good. All right. Another cap here. Set that aside. There's an inline barrel adjuster here. Now, I don't know whether I need to keep this or not. You know, I've got conflicted on whether or not I actually need to use it or not. You know, I haven't gotten a clear answer on the friction shifting. My inkling is that it's not absolutely necessary, but I will put it to the side and maintain it just in case that needs to happen. Come over here. A bunch of little zip ties on here. Out of the way. So I have new brake pads, so I'm going to remove the old ones. Now I've never done this before, but it looks like this cotter pin simply gets removed. So I'm going to pull this cotter pin. And then the whole, let's see here, how does that work? There's a, is that 2mm? Nope. Definitely not 4. Oh. Looks like that. Hey. And push it out through the bottom. Okay. Cool. Now, so this doesn't get misplaced, we'll just pop that pin right back on there and place it on the shit that holds the brake pad. The brake pad holding shit. That's what I'm going to call it. Got to get the other one. Guess I do got to remove the tire for this one. The new wheel that was in the preview video. Again, it's a HED Belgium G wheel with the DT Swiss 350 hub, and for the cassette, running a 10-speed 10 to 42 tooth. And 6. Yep. Wheel out, then we'll pull the brake pads. There we go. Well, there you have it. Looks like everything is broken down as far as it needs to go. Here momentarily, I guess we'll throw in some cranks just so you can see how they look, because one, those things are sexy as fuck. Look at that. 3824. You know what? Gonna see how it goes. 170. All right. Enjoyed it, and we will see you next time. Okay, so we're back. It's been a couple days for me, but only a second for you. So we're gonna start by putting some of this together. Let's see. We're gonna start with this crank. Grab the 8mm. You know what? Put on the glove and put a little bit of grease on both these square tapers. Just a light coat. Hopefully that makes things a little more simple when it's time to remove these at some point. I'm going to pre-grease the threads on the bolts. Is that supposed to happen? I don't know. Put a little bit of grease on most things. Why not that? Alright, let's go ahead and put this on here. Take this bolt. In. And I'll come back later and put a torque wrench to that just to make sure that the torque is correct. Okay, so put that on there like that. Grab this. Good to go. All right. One down. Got that on there. That's residue on there. Get past, fling your wrench across the room. Reach in there and let's tighten that up. Good, pop these on. Let's just remember that you put these in here and thread them. Turn to the left to tighten them up, correct? Yeah. Make sure it's snug. And then I took this apart just to put it back together, just to remind myself the order in which the spacers and everything go. Took me a minute the first time I got these and took them apart. I was like, oh shit, I have no idea how to put this back together. So, oh. Okay, so been sitting on this for a hot minute. Between kids, work, regular riding, time somewhat becomes a scarce commodity. So it took me a while to get it all complete, but everything's pretty much done. It's in the final configuration of what I'm going to use to go from Washington State to Georgia. So without further ado, here we go. And at the end, I'm going to go over a couple things that worked and a couple things that did not work and what I did. Okay, now to go over what we have on the rear. On the back, we have a 9-speed, 11 to 42 tooth Microshift cassette. Ended up with a Microshift rear derailleur, and everything shifts. I'm running a 10-speed chain on a 9-speed cassette. Everything shifts smoothly, not a problem. That's really the easiest part right there. On the front, we've still got the Sora front derailleur. Haven't changed that. And then again, no problem shifting from the 24 to the 36 and back down to the 24. So I can't complain. Moving up, kept with the pink bar tape because you know what, love colors. Again, you've got the Ene Ciclo friction shifter there and a Rivendell Silver shifter, and went back to the drifters that originally came on here. And now as to why. So originally wanted to put on this Deore I. It's a M6000 rear derailleur, and I did get it to shift with the 10-speed cassette all the way to the 42 tooth. However, even with the clutch off or the clutch on, it just was not a smooth shift. It was rough, it sounded gross, and yeah, it just was not a pleasant shifting experience. So temporarily I had gone and put the Altus rear derailleur back on. Again, 9-speed. I think Shimano said that the max capacity tooth for this was like a 36 or a 38. I could get it to shift. I had it all the way from the 11 to the 42 tooth and it would shift. The problem was that I didn't like was, one, the B screw was maxed out, and there was almost, this thing was barely capable. In addition to that, I had to have about one or two, I had a few too many links. The chain was a little bit too long. There was a lot of chain slap. However, it couldn't go any shorter or I wouldn't have been able to make the shift into the last cog. So that's why I ended up throwing the Microshift derailleur on there. And that seems to work swimmingly. But one thing that really disappointed me was I was not able to use these. I tested them out, I put them on. Apparently these are for V-brake or canty brakes, even though they're short pull and the TRP spires are short pull. There was just too much play in the brakes, and you know, it wasn't snappy enough. I wouldn't have felt comfortable going down large hills and large descents with those on the front. Therefore, that's why I went back to the drifters that originally came on this bike. And that's it. So, like I said, we're gonna go from Washington to Georgia. Gonna be leaving around 13 or 15 June, and head down the Sierra Cascades all the way to Wairika, California, shoot over to Eureka, head down the Pacific Coast Highway to San Francisco, then taking the Western Express from San Fran to Pueblo. Then take part of the Transamerica, make my way to the Katy Trail, and then I got to shoot down through Illinois, Kentucky, between Land of the Lakes, down into northern Alabama to Anniston, hit the Chief Ladiga and Comet Trails, and to where I'm moving. So next video will be a packing video. So I'll go through the gear of what I'm taking, show a couple things that I've changed out because, you know, shakeout test that just didn't work. Anyway, thanks for watching. Catch you later.